Yeah, sir. It's pandemonium here. They just don't stop coming. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Oh. Well. Apparently we're back. Whew. All right. Well, what's up? I was not freaking out at all.
Trying for an Oscar there, Ollie, huh?
Oh, you like that? I mean, I dabble. But all right, well, I mean, we're basically gonna plow into these games as fast as we can. We've been under attack here, chemical warfare, bombs being dropped, people knocking at the door of the bunker. I don't know what is happening, but it looks like we're back, and I like that. So as soon as we are ready, we're gonna jump on into the game. I believe the players are being given the green light to go ahead right as we speak. So hopefully we can be on our way in a few minutes. But guys, I do apologize deeply for these technical issues. Obviously, it is not something that we wanted to have happen. But yeah, like we talked about earlier, unfortunately, we're not able to have the players here in Iceland due to COVID-19. And that kind of means that we're forced to try uncharted territory. And sometimes, you know, you step on a landmine or two. But all right. I wish I had a smoke machine. That would be great. I was pondering if I should go out and like gather snow and see if I could like make it snow inside, like the roof cap blown off and stuff. But let's go back into the World Championship. We're about to see match number 2 between Yanju and Darkness. Both players are extremely patient and have been great in helping us sort out these issues. Can I get your predictions? Who do you think is going to take game number 2? Bubbles.
I'd like it to be Yanju just so we see it go to a best of 3, but I think realistically, with Darkness's Feigned Retreat deck, assuming he brings that, Darkness has a pretty big chance of winning, and personally I think he's favoured if that's the deck he brings.
What about
Yeah,
you,
definitely
Scout?
looking favored for Darkness here, I think. Overall, I think he's bringing a lot more decks that shake things up. Like Bubba said, the Feigned Retreat deck. I think it's the only aggro deck here, and that alone might just catch people off guard.
Yeah. What about you, Blue?
hmm Yeah, you know, I'd have to agree with Scout here. I think, you know, Darkness up one game to 0 now. He is just bringing in this wealth of experience in the game. I think he functions well under pressure. You know, he's always very cool, calm, and collected when we see him on camera, and that really transfers well into cards and being able to think through your plays in a logical way, not panicking, because you know when you feel that adrenaline going and you're kind of rushing to figure out what you want to do for the turn, that's when you can slip up and make those misplays. I know from experience, I can struggle with staying calm under pressure, and I think Darkness has this thing mastered. So I think that's a huge advantage for him.
Yeah. Well, I'm just waiting for the green light, but we are ready to head on into the game whenever production is ready to bring us there. I think Yeonju is gonna tie this up, right? I feel like he has consistently surprised me throughout the tournament. I think you guys are all correct though. You know, if you win the first match, I think you kind of like that's your blind deck, right? That's the deck where you don't know what the opponent is going to bring. You have to pick like your strongest thing, and you just have to hope that you win that first matchup. In the second one, things can become a little bit more tactical and a little bit more kind of tit for tat type of thing, right? So I think as soon as you win that first game, you are definitely a favorite in the series because of the deck selection process. But I honestly, like, I counted Yanju's tokens out before in the tournament, and that was a mistake. So I don't know. Maybe I could get an update about where we are with the game. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think just again going back to Yanshu's tokens, I just would not have the faith to play that deck a second time in a row. I mean, I know Scout, you're kind of in favor of him bringing that deck again, but you can't have a draw like that again to knock you out of this match with Darkness. I mean, it seems like the least consistent deck that I see in his lineup.
And we are back. This is game number 2 between Darkness and Yanju in this top 4 of the 2020 Cards World Championship. The winner here is going to advance over into the winner bracket finals, where they're going to be facing CCMS, who won Fenrir earlier here today. The loser is going to be dropping down to face Fenrir in the lower bracket.
Yansu going back with the tokens, perhaps thinking that first game was a fluke. You know, if he gets a terrible hand again this time, then we can just boil it down to Darkness plot armor. But looking pretty good for him.
Yeah, very surprising to me to see this deck again. I am very interested to see if it is a fluke. I mean, you may totally be right, Scout, in that. But just personally, I would not have the confidence to bring that again. But then again, these are the top players. This is the Final Four of the World Championship, and they're here for a reason.
So what I want to point out here is that already Yanju seems to have found a better draw. He's played 1 reserves, guys. So
Crazy.
Yeah, amazing. But on the flip side, Darkness with the ever powerful Panzer 35T and an infantry unit combo. So.
And Darkness, I don't think we mentioned it. He is playing his Feigned Retreat deck right now. So lots of aggro going to be coming out of him.
Skype is frozen for me.
Oh, so you can't see the game?
Here.
No, I can't.
Unfortunately. Well, looks like we'll ask production to hang up on you and call you again. But we're back in it. Now frontal assault being used to spawn light infantry units. It just always feels so bad. And a Miter regiment in the front line being able to take out that Katyusha, meaning that he's not able to just pop back down any of those Type 93s or... Oh, that could actually be big.
Yeah, the bombing rate is pretty nice. That'll be really huge against tokens later. The Flampanzer is also very good. Darkness maybe deciding to hold off onto it, maybe catch a buff. Looks like it's what he's going to do. He's in no rush to take out those light infantry right now with those Flampanzers in hand.
No, absolutely. And, you know, he also has those 22nd Infantry there in the back line, so he's got that draw engine going. And with no Katyusha on board, it might become hard for Yanju to deal with it. But now getting a big unit on the board, making sure he has another reserves in hand, he's holding an alliance, so we might be able to see him start powering up over the next few turns.
Interesting he didn't attack with that light infantry. He wants Darkness to spend his credits trying to clear. Looks like we're going to see the no surrender come out and the frontal assault.
Yeah, wow. All right. Well, it looks like Yanju's starting to find his footing a little bit. So let's see what he can do.
Yeah, already looking way better than last game. That desperate measures and bombing raid sitting in Darkness's hand, though, those are going to be absolutely devastating later on.
Yeah. I mean, you got that raiding brigade that can take out one of the tokens. That Miter regiment can take out another. The bombing raid can kind of help him out as well. Darkness definitely not struggling for answers at this point in the game.
100%.
I wonder, do you go face here if you're Darkness? Just chip in on the face and...
No, because think of the last game of how Darkness absolutely 100% prioritizes the infantry. He doesn't want to give Yansu any chance at all to, like, have any kind of foothold to come back from.
Yeah.
He's in no rush to go face, because as long as the light infantry stays in the support line, Yansu cannot do anything to close out the game.
All right, so Yanju can now basically fill up his board. He can draw a few cards with Industrial Might if he wants to. Actually keeping his hand pretty full, and that's a huge thing here for Yanju, making sure that he has the cards he needs. And that that we can do it could be huge, man.
We might see the desperate measures come out now
Probably.
before those get buffed up. Or Darkness might continue to go for unit trades, but I think this is probably the best chance he's got to play desperate measures.
He could also double Flampanzer, get rid of 2 of them, and get 2 Flampanzers on board.
I think you want to save the Flampanzer for when Yanju plays a unit and buffs.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually an insane point here. Oh my god. And all of a sudden floods the board. He's got those 2 Flampanzers. So even massive, massive light infantry units from Yanju are just going to be sniped.
Absolutely. This is not looking great for Yanju now. Kind of running out of the infantry there. Darkness is, I think he's gotten pretty lucky with those you know, the bombing raid and the desperate measures. Sorry.
Yeah, I wonder what we're gonna see Yanju actually do here. Looks like he's gonna go for the frontal assault. He should really get rid of that Type 93. Yep, does get rid of that. Draws another reserves, so keeping his token generation alive.
He is still quite low. I'm not sure if that was the best play there. I think maybe he should have went for trying to clear the front line, perhaps.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, what we see there is, you know, Darkness. He played the Taipei Regiment, moved it up into the front line, and now he is threatening lethal on a 1 HP Yanju. That is, we can do it. Wow, does he have any way of dealing with this? I mean, isn't he dead to just destruction effects?
Yeah, this is rough.
If
it depends
that
on what the
Akita
hits.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he doesn't have... He can't even clear all the units.
Oh, and the surrender comes out. And Darkness, 2 O's, Yanju. Insane match there. So we see Blue Blast has transformed into an out of order screen.
I think he got hit by a countermeasure earlier. And Jagro doing what it does, where it just completely overruns the game. And I think tokens definitely aren't the worst matchup against it. If you can get some buffed up tokens in the front line, they can really, really struggle to get past those. You have to use Sendais or Flampanzers. But just Darkness having the early lead he needs and just completely swamping Yanju before he can properly get online. I think if we'd seen that go on for another 3 or 4 turns, it may have swung to the token's favor. But Jagro just able to put down so much early pressure, and especially Feigned Retreat, even if you don't get the early pressure, you do have that absolute powerhouse of a late game card.
Yeah. And I mean, I would say Yanju definitely having a little bit of a better luck this time around. Oh, Blue, you're back. Welcome.
I'm back.
Oh, welcome.
Technical difficulties, but I'm back.
Did you get bombed as well, like I did?
It was a carpet bomb. Yes, Ollie.
Okay.
It was a carpet bomb.
Well, there's 2 carpet bombs, so there shouldn't be any more. It should all be smooth from here onwards.
Well, that's true. Well, what we just saw there was Darkness 2-0 Yanju. Yanju bringing his token deck both times, not really working out for him. He did get better draws in the second game, but that wasn't enough, right? I feel like maybe you were correct, Blue. Maybe tokens against, you know, a player like Darkness that knows and is willing to do, you know, the thing that doesn't feel good, which is, you know, spend your credits on taking out that 1-1 unit instead of hitting face or something like that. Maybe it's just not the matchup you want to go into.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could kind of see this coming from a mile away. The deck just did not perform at all game 1, and game 2 it was pretty tough to watch. You know, going up against Japan deck with desperate measures is just the worst nightmare for tokens. And you know, cards like Panzer 35T that operate for 0 can come in with Blitz and just value trade out all of your light infantry before you have the chance to buff them. So I think it's just a poorly performing deck, I think, for the tournament meta as it sits right now.
Yeah. Well, We're going to take a quick break before we get on into the next series. The next series is going to be in the loser bracket between the loser of the first game and the loser of the second game. Those are Yanju and Fenrir. Both are far from being losers, however. They're already in the top 4. They're already fierce competitors, and both still have a chance to win that World Championship title and snatch those $5,000. But before we head into that match, let's get to know Britain a little bit, both as a nation in World War II and in cards.
At the time when World War II started, it was the largest empire in history. It had been in the Victorian era called the empire on which the sun never sets. Britain's power lay in its navy. The Royal Navy was the largest in the world. Its role was to be the first line of defense for the British Isles and to keep the Commonwealth together. Before the war, Britain only had a small professional army. But during the first months of the war, they started to conscript young men into what would become their expeditionary force. Fighting in Norway, Belgium and France in 1940, the expeditionary force was defeated on all fronts, so they had to retreat from Europe's mainland. With the evacuation of Dunkirk, the fighting shifted from the ground to the air and sea. Seeing that they could not defeat Germany on their own, they started to make plans to defend their island and the Commonwealth. In that lay the strength of Britain. Winning the battle for Britain, even though it was a tight fight, made them see how important aerial supremacy was. Using the famous Spitfire and Hurricane airplanes, the RAF, the Royal Air Force, prevented the Luftwaffe from gaining supremacy in the air, and by doing that, obstructed the German invasion of Britain. The British Prime Minister Winston Churchill said, "Never was so much owed by so many to so few," referring to the British victory in the Battle for Britain. At the same time, the Royal Navy fought German U-boats in the Atlantic Ocean. The Navy had to protect merchant vessels, trying to keep the British population fed and to bring in raw materials for the war. That fighting in the Atlantic Ocean took almost the whole war, but ending in British victory over the U-boat. After the Battle for Britain, the Luftwaffe changed its focus from trying to gain aerial supremacy over the skies to the Blitz, bombing of British cities. Retaliating, the RAF started to bomb German cities, which would intensify during the whole war. The famous Lancaster bombers were the main aircraft used for British bombing raids. The latter part of the war, Britain took part in land fighting in North Africa, Italy, and took part in invading Europe with their American allies. During both the D-Day landings and in the North African battles, the main British commander was Montgomery, or Monty as he was called. Britain would stand in the end as one of the victors of the war, having been fighting almost from the very start in 1939 to 1945.
So Britain was the second nation to join the war. After Germany invaded Poland in 1939, the British and the French declared war against Nazi Germany, and the fight began. They formed the British Expeditionary Forces and sent them out to the fronts to start fighting the war. Unfortunately, during the first year of combat, they suffered heavy losses, which led to the Dunkirk evacuation. From 1940 until 1941, the British kept on fighting, mostly alone, against a strong and aggressive German power. They showed tremendous resilience in protecting the UK and Britain from invasion, and through the Battle of Britain, denied Germany the aerial superiority they needed to stage an invasion into the UK. Because of the control and influence that they exerted over the war, the archetype in game that Britain represents is the control archetype, meaning that they have plenty of units that you can buff the HP of, that have guard that can protect sensitive targets, and a bunch of control orders that allow you to slow down the pace of your enemy to get your board under control. Now, if you look at some explicit examples of cards in the game that Britain has to offer, the first one is the number 10 Commando. Now, the Commandos were a legendary fighting force in the Second World War. They were a small group of elite soldiers that often carried out missions behind enemy lines without a lot of support, striking from the shadows and being a thorn in the side of the Germans throughout the entire war effort. Now, in Cards, they play very similarly. When you play them out, you get a small infantry unit on board, but it has smokescreen, meaning that it's able to hide from all the action. And then every time you play an order, it does one random damage to a random opponent on the board, quickly becoming a thorn in the side of your opponent, just as they were in the side of Nazi Germany during the war. Another card that Britain has to offer is called Ultra, and that refers to the ultra-secret designation that decrypted communication via radio and teleprinter from the Axis powers were designated as ultra-secret from the Allies. And that's a step above the highest designation before they managed to crack the code, which was most secret. So in the game, Ultra does very much the same thing. It cracks your opponent's code and means that when you play it and your opponent plays an order, it counters it and gives you a card. So you're able to, in a proactive way, stop your opponent from making the next move.
Well, that was Britain, both in the World War II and in Cards. And I don't know if anyone has heard, but I really, really like Commando decks. Coincidence that we talked about Commandos in that video? I don't think so. But talking about Commandos, that's one of the decks that got banned in the previous series. But now we're basically gearing up for the first match of the loser bracket. And this is the first time where winning and losing really, really matters. Whoever loses this next match is out of the World Championship. They have no more chance of winning it all, no more chance of becoming the world champion.
So yeah,
Definitely a lot of pressure
Yanju
there.
versus Fenrir. I'm just going to quickly go through the decks and then we can discuss the player
Yep.
matchups and things. Yanju is bringing his Commando deck, but with USA as an ally. He's bringing his Japan-Germany air deck, his Soviet-US tokens deck, and his German-Japan mid-range. Fenrir, oh, pardon me. Fenrir is bringing his German-Japan mid-range as well, a Soviet-US tokens, a US ramp with Britain ally and cards like Pattern in it, and then a Brit-US air deck.
Okay. What do you guys think of this?
I think just going off the decks, I'm favouring Yanju, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite deck that I've seen so far from Yanju, or that I'd like to see a lot, is this Admiral Yamamoto Blitz deck. Lots of Blitz planes here. He's running Tony. He has Burst of Fire, FW 190s. I mean, these are huge, huge units on their own. And then you have the one-turn kill potential of that Burst of Fire. I think that will be a treat to see if he can pull that off today.
I think that's probably, one of my favorite decks that I've seen in this tournament was that, super heavy blitzy air deck that he brought, earlier in the tournament. I'm pretty sure there have been some minor tweaks to it since then, but, just seeing kind of how fast, with the right draws and with the right hands, how fast that can get out there and deal damage, it was a complete surprise to me.
Yeah, and it has the ability to go late game fairly well. Do you think the additional breakthrough? He had one breakthrough, but he's added a second one. And what this means is you can guard up over 3 or 4 turns and feel really, really safe. Hey, I've got all these guards. And then I just drop breakthrough and I OTK you. It doesn't matter how many guards you have because it just removes it from all enemy guards on board.
Yep. And the players are selecting their decks here, and that means that we are basically ready to head on into the match, guys. It is Fenrir going to be taking on Yanju, and I'm going to shake things up a little bit. I'm going to ask Bubbles and myself to join us for the cast, so we can all be here together.
All 4 of us.
All 4 of us.
No.
I love that.
There we go, and we are getting a stable and smooth signal from Fenrir. Love to see it, absolutely love to see it.
Looks like the German-Japan deck versus the US-Brit ramp deck.
Oh, I'm so excited about this German-Japan deck.
Yes,
Oh,
that's a
yeah.
tough one for me because ramp is sort of my baby. So I'm gonna be rooting for the ramp deck here from Fenrir.
I think Yansu, just looking at the decks, I think maybe has the favored matchup here, just because things like Zero are really good into these big US bombers.
He has got Leo in his starting hand though, so it's going to be a brick in his hand for 10 turns, but he knows he can play around the Leo because he does have it ready and waiting.
Oh, forgive me. I've mistaken this deck for his big bursty Japan deck.
Ah yes, the
My
Japan
bad.
German.
I mean, but I also want to
No.
point out here, you know, Fenrir, he's gotten off some ramp, yes, but there's a Nashib out there, right? So, and we know how fast the Nashib can kind of spiral out of control sometimes.
It's not an ideal matchup for Nashib though. When you have Nashib, you want your opponent to be playing lots of little units. It's really good against things like aggro or tokens, where they're going to have loads of units with 1 or 2 health that you can just ping and get loads of credits off. Not many units for Yanju to take advantage of it.
Yeah. And there we see Fenrir playing the air defense, guarding up against the 15th Cav, doing any more damage. What do you guys feel
Popping
about that?
Air defense.
Yeah, what do you guys feel about the air defense being used on a 15th Cavalry?
I think that's the right play, because you know you don't want Germany and Japan to be getting early tempo like that. You really want to cut that short when you can. And with a ramp deck, if you have the opportunity to clear that early stuff for cheap, you just go for it.
It also frees up his turn to just weaken do it and buff up his commandos, and then this is a super scary threat. You kind of need to drop your Panther G if you're to deal with that properly.
Oh, that's a great top deck there from Yanju. He does not want to move that Panzer 3 up into the front line, because that's just going to get killed by that commando.
Honestly, I think I would have liked to see him not drop the Panzer, because it's just going to get killed by the commando. I think I'd have liked to see him Takasaki and then go Panther G next turn.
Oh, that's interesting. Then you're playing against the Panzer. You're playing the Panther G to try and get that heavy armor hit onto the commando, right?
Exactly. It can completely negate the destruction effect or the destroying effect those commandos have.
Maybe
Now-
what's going through his mind is he just really values that front line, and that's probably the more important thing to him right now.
Yeah, I wonder, you know, now he's in a position where Fenrir has that #1 commando. It doesn't have smokescreen anymore. It only has 4 health, so he's able to kind of trade with it more on his own, you know, on his own pace, I guess.
Sure.
And a rough hand here for Fenrir, right? Like really good cards, but really hard to get maximum value out of these cards with the board as it is.
He may
I know
go
what
for
I
the
would do here.
carpet bomb,
would
may go
just-
for the gamble.
What would
Just
you do?
go for the gamble, baby. 1 in 3 to hit that Panther G. I mean, you
Oh,
have
and he got
you
it!
have to just get lucky.
He gets
That's
it.
what I like to see.
I mean, realistically, you don't hate it either if you hit the Panzer III, right? Because that means it's going to be really difficult to kind of clear that commando. You need to use 2 turns for it. So,
Wow, that was, oh man. How can Fenrir
love to
walk
see those.
with cojones that big, dude? That was a play.
I think if you're Yanju, what do you do here now? You can hit that B-17, but you can't kill it. And that
You're
leaves you
Rado.
2 credits left.
Urado, right?
It won't draw you any units right now, though.
No, but it will protect your HQ from the bomber.
I don't know if your HQs are concerned. You should be fighting over board control, especially if you're Fenrir. I doubt we'll see Fenrir going face at all. He is going to go for the errata,
Ooh,
though.
he missed a point of
nice.
damage
Little
there.
misstep there. Yep, he
Yeah.
did miss a damage on the B-17.
I mean, personally, what I would have wanted to see was just play the autocannon, play the Arado, and then leave everything in the support line. Just keeping it out of range from the units that are on board for Fenrir at the moment.
That would have buffed that tank's attack by 2, so it would have been able to one-shot that B-17, given if Fenrir hadn't moved to the front line with his commandos.
Yeah.
Really not sure about that play there by Yanju. Maybe it's nerves getting to him.
I mean, we absolutely cannot discount that for sure. You know, we are talking about the first elimination game. We're talking about, you know, Yanju, he's 21 years old, playing in his first international event here and on the verge of elimination against a seasoned veteran like Fenrir. I think, you know, it would be weird if you didn't make a mistake.
Yeah, I believe nerves play a huge role in these high stakes. I mean, this is it. Like, this is the biggest cards tournament in the world, right? This is the world stage, and yeah, 100% nerves are playing a role here.
Yeah, it seems like we're basically hearing Fenrir's sound while we're watching Yanju's stream, so we can kind of hear that carpet bomb going off a little bit beforehand.
I think there is a scary amount of late game though in Yanju's hand. With this Leopold, you want to get rid of these B-17 before you drop it. Then you also have an Emperor of the Sun, and Tiger IE. I think he's got a scary amount of late game. It's just about if he can reach it without just getting killed by these huge planes right now.
Oh,
I think you just 35T, trade with the Commando, play the Tiger E. I think you just have to run it out there, right?
Just you've got to be thinking about Avengers and things. If you get Avengered there, you pretty much just lose the game on the spot. I think it's a pretty high-risk move. I would like to see him do it, but Fenrir can trade it towards there, then follow it up and kill it with the B-17.
Yeah.
Probably looking
just has
to
to
get
hold out
till 10k.
Yeah, exactly. Just has to hold out for that Empire of the Sun.
Oh.
Oh, look at that.
Oh!
The technology.
Yeah.
Even though they're not perfectly in sync, at least this time we were able to see basically what he has in hand at all times. I really appreciate that production working overtime for us here. Another carpet bomb comes out and clears the board. Ooh. And Yanju all of a sudden at 6 HP and not a whole lot he can do here.
Yeah, that ramp kind of smashing all of his big stuff that he was hoping to get into.
It's just so unfortunate here to see, you know, Yanju's hands just pretty decimated. All he can do is play the Sendai.
Yeah, that is rough.
I think you Sendai the B-17. Well, I guess. I mean, Leopold could buy him a turn here. But the thing is, if you Leopold, you reset that B-17. You get the deployment effect again.
Yeah. And
Fenrir has the second B-17, so.
Yeah. And Fenrir looks to be hovering the Blackwatch, looks to be going to be playing the Blackwatch here in a little bit. And that means that the Empire of the Sun is also not able to deal with that B-17 either. So he's not able to refill up his hand, he's not able to get that threat off the board, and he's forced to Leopold.
Yeah.
He's going to buy himself a turn or two. I don't know what he can find to swing the game in his favor, but you always want to buy as much time as you possibly can and see if you can't find a solution, even if you hadn't thought of it.
Oh, it looks like the surrender came out. Yeah, and no, there it was. It was the 101st Airborne ending the game there. Fenrir taking game number 1 here against Yanju. Experience proving to be too much, and Yanju making a couple of missteps, making you wonder maybe if the nerves are getting to him.
Yeah, if Yanju had buffed up that Panzer III with the Arado earlier, he could have then killed it later with a Panzer 35T. But he missed that opportunity, so that it did come back to bite him, missing out on that 1 damage.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so for anybody wondering about the format here, we are playing a double elimination tournament. We have played the first 2 games. These are the losers of those first 2 games. This is the
This is a best of 3 series to determine who's going to make it into the loser bracket finals. They are then going to be facing off against whoever loses in the winner bracket finals, which we're going to play right after this. This is going to leave us with 3 players heading into tomorrow and 2 series to be played. The loser bracket grand finals, which is also the match for 3rd place, as well as the grand finals, which is for all the marbles. So tomorrow we're going to be starting off with the 2 players that have lost so far, going at it to find out who has a chance of redemption in the grand finals against the undefeated player. The undefeated player has the advantage of starting with 1 victory, as is tradition in double elimination brackets like this. So again, we're moving into these matches that matter more and more. This match that's coming up here, if Yanju loses, he's out of the tournament, right? So he has his back up against the wall even more than he did in the game before. That means a bigger opportunity to potentially slip up. That means more pressure, more nerves, and everything else. But then, once you look at the next game, let's say Fenrir wins this game, gets into the next game, right? He still has to show up tomorrow and play a best of 5 series for his tournament life before he even makes up into the finals. And that puts a ton of pressure on you. That also means you play more games than the other person, right? So the person that makes it undefeated through, he skips that series. So we might potentially see 5 games where they get to see how they're playing their decks, what decks they're bringing and in what order, and that can be a huge advantage for the player that goes undefeated.
Yeah, definitely. All this time to study the opponents I'd be surprised if they're not all going to be, sitting up for maybe a few hours after this, early tomorrow morning, going through, figuring out, who did what, studying all these games that they saw today.
Absolutely. Pardon me, Scott, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second to bring you guys the hype intro for this game number 2 between Fenrir and Yanju in the first loser bracket game here in the 2020 Cards World Championship Grand Finals. Whoever loses this series is out of the tournament. Fenrir currently 1-0 up against Yanju. Yanju really needing to get back into it. And look at those beautiful table props. Look at that nice revolver and that sword, guys. It looks so good.
Looks like we're gonna see the Japan-Germany air deck come up versus the Brit air deck. So it's gonna be air versus air. Fighters are super powerful in these matchups because you can block your enemy's bombers.
Who's running more fighters?
Most
Yanju.
definitely Yanju. Japan not really known for their bombers, so. And I believe it's German ally.
Yeah, he's got some as his ally. He's got the 1-3 German Fury bomber. He's got 2 of those in his deck, but other than that, those are his only bombers, and it's just fighters and infantry from there on out.
I wonder if we're able to swap over and see Yanju's hand, what he's holding.
I think it's a really good starting hand for Fenrir, especially with that alliance sitting there ready to be played on curve later on. That could be absolutely devastating.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously we know what Yanju's bringing and that he's probably not bringing a ground unit here, but never mind, he is. So you can get value out of that P40.
Lovely new Flampanzer animation, and there's his hand. He's sitting on the Admiral Yamato. He's sitting on an air superiority, so he has got a lot of burst potential, whether it's for HQ or just to infantry. This sort of 3 damage for 1 nuke is really efficient, and he's actually sitting on 2 of those.
Oh yeah, and that's huge. He also has a tactical strike there in hand, which can deal 4 damage to a target in the backline. So if he wants to, in the coming turns, he's able to deal fairly effectively with the board of Fenrir.
I think you just 0 here. As soon as you can get the 0 down, you go for it.
Fenrir holding on to an Ultra, though, that might catch one of those elimination orders.
It's interesting to see, too, that Yansu only has 1 Flame Panzer in the deck and just had it on turn 3. Like that's huge versus this Brit Air deck.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at his hand, so I want to ask you guys one thing. Admiral Yamamoto, this isn't a card we've seen a lot of. What does it do? Why haven't we seen a lot of it? And why is Yanju bringing it here?
So the
Admiral
actual effect of the
Yamamoto
card is for 1 credit. It gives all your air units currently on the board blitz and +1 attack.
Yeah, and the reason you don't see it a lot, I think, is because it is pretty niche, I'd say. You kind of only really want to run it with a deck that really is built around, big, hard-hitting fighters. Especially with cards like Burst of Fire that can just, you can have an empty board and then suddenly explode with a big Burst of Fire Admiral Yamamoto Blitz fighter just out of nowhere. I think it pairs extremely well if you're running a lot of zeros in your deck.
Yeah.
So there's a combo in this deck as well. I don't think we've ever seen anyone else run before. With that Henshaku, or however it's pronounced, the 1/3 bomber, you can play 2 of those, and then you can play for the Emperor, and suddenly you have 2/3 bombers with Fury, and you can just clear the board.
Yeah, that's actually a really great point as well. But I mean, I'm looking at this right now. Fenrir, I feel like, is getting really greedy here, setting up that huge alliance. But I don't really see the way for Yanju to punish him for it right now.
He's got a few orders in hand, yet not really the fighters for the air superiorities on the board, and not the credits to do a bombing raid and like a tactical strike all at once. So
I wonder what we're gonna see here. He really needs to.
Is that a breakthrough actually? I think that's a breakthrough.
Oh yeah, it could be. That's actually, yeah, it's a good point. But I would say doing exactly the right thing there, getting rid of those fighters and bombers in the back line and making sure Fenrir isn't able to buff up those long-range units, but that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hit 1, 2, 3, 4 orders and cost him 8 credits right there.
I was kind of
think he might be
surprised to see
5
Fenrir. I was surprised to see Fenrir go for that trade there, because that guard has 2 operation costs and really not under a huge amount of pressure to. Wow, that was loud.
I think you just got to drop the alliance here, yeah, and then you can get these value trades, or you can pressure face. This Blackwatch now actually doing a lot of damage to his face. But I feel like Fenrir is not in a good position, just thinking long term. If these units get removed, he's sort of screwed.
Oh, and the Takasagi being drawn there from Yanju.
Yeah, if that goes down.
Can I just mention one thing here? You guys have Yanshu's deck list pulled up, right, for Japan, Germany? The air deck. In the deck list, it says there's only 1 Flame Panzer, but we've seen 2. But I don't know if that is just a typo in the deck list.
Well, we'll definitely look into that. We did translate the deck lists. They were originally put into Chinese, so we will review the original deck list and make sure that everything is on the up and up here.
I'm gonna lose this big bomber because that's a bad card to lose here. You've got a very powerful combo where you drop the big bomber and you give it the buff and you hit face and end the game out of nowhere.
It would also hurt a lot to lose Ultra, because Ultra is also a draw card. So I don't know. I think that discard was gonna hurt no matter what.
Sure.
That's true. That's true. But having that Manchester in hand with the burst of fire there, the finest hour there would have probably helped quite a bit. But what is Yanju able to pull out of the bag there? Not a whole lot. Ultra blocking it. I wonder if he was
the second one.
Yeah, I wonder if he was triggering that on purpose.
Does he not have a second one? No,
be.
his hand is delayed. His hand is delayed. That's all.
So, I have a question here. I mean, I don't really see a way out here from Yanju.
I think this alliance Blackwatch just putting so much pressure on his face. It's 6 damage a turn, and it comes to a total of 9 with these commandos as well.
Yeah, and I mean, he's attacking into that Blackwatch, but he's not able to get rid of it. Has to use the air superiority for the 1 damage. Convoy, great draw there from Fenrir, enabling him to fill up his hand a little bit. He can even convoy, we can do it, and he can attack to trade, so.
That Blackwatch is also going to hurt later too. Kind of just.
Just annihilating his hand.
Ugh. I think that bricks the Empire.
It does. I mean, that puts the Empire of the Sun up to 14 credits. He does give up his number 1 commando, but I don't think you're that worried about it right now if you're Fenrir, but he is getting to the point where, his hand is getting dangerously low.
Yeah, he still has that finest
Ooh.
hour, so if he does pull a plane...
Needs a
Ooh,
fighter, though.
that's
Bomber obviously gets bricked
yeah.
by all the
4.
fighters.
It's 4.
HMS.
Oh no, yeah, he can attack past the fighter.
If he finds a fighter, though, like a Kitty Hawk or something, that is lethal right there. Or if he finds a close air support, that could also be lethal.
Yeah, I mean, in general, he's just putting so much pressure on the board, and I'm not sure how Yanju is able to deal with that at all. I mean, yeah, he can put up another fighter and kind of stall him out a little bit, but he's not able to get that Blackwatch off the board. And the
Honestly,
Sheeran.
I wonder if we see him just end the game soon. I'm curious, what does he feel like he needs? Like a right bank, and then he can just end the game on the spot and just ignore everything on board.
I think if Fenrir does get a close air support, that's game.
The Arado draws him the desperate measures there, but still only able to get rid of one of those units. He's going to take, at least 2 damage to face there. There's another, we can do it. So a draw potential here for Fenrir.
Possibly looking for a close air support.
That's huge!
Monty.
Oh my
Britannia
goodness.
could also be game if he top decks that on the Blackwatch.
Yeah, and I mean, now you just play the E Surrey and double tap the HQ with the Blackwatch, and he's pouring on the pressure, right?
Absolutely,
I
this is
think you
definitely an
have to
uphill
go
battle.
next. Yeah.
And with that Isurei on HQ, it's going to make it extremely hard for Yansu to get his big blow-up turn, especially with the orders that have been severely bullied in his hand by Blackwatch.
Oh!
Oh!
To the last man! But that's not enough. There's an albacore. And a
That's not,
Oh,
it's not lethal,
mobilization
though.
off the top. Oh,
close air
Oh,
support as
no,
well.
it's lethal now.
That's lethal.
He's lethal! No! Fenrir!
missed
no!
it!
He missed lethal again!
Three,
He
four.
did it last,
Oh.
he did it last time! No!
And there's a. Okay. He's got the Wrath Lightning now, so he has that fighter, which is able to break through, even if Yanchu plays that Sheeran, so and that FW190. So he should have lethal here next turn, no matter what.
My heart. That's the 3rd time we've seen him miss lethal.
Oh, and to add insult to injury, finding the shelling if he wants to drag it out, but he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to. Fenrir finding the cards he needs to keep himself alive in the tournament and knock Yanju out. The old veteran coming back and showing the grit and determination needed to stay alive in this tournament. Congratulations to Fenrir for that amazing victory.
I don't know. I've seen him miss lethal 3 times during this, and it's kind of blowing my mind. Maybe his decks are just that good where he can just get away with that. I don't know. Maybe he's doing it on purpose just to aggravate us. I don't know.
Yeah, that was an incredible match to watch. And just to see that the power of the Brit air deck to just come out of nowhere with blitz and win. I mean, he out-blitzed the deck with Admiral Yamamoto in it.
Yeah. That's true.
So, well done. Well done to Fenrir. And, of course, congratulations to Yansu as well for making it this far.
Yeah.
I must say that I think one of the MVPs of that game was in fact the Japanese air superiority order where it nuked things. That doubt with the Blackwatch, it finished it off and it killed so many units. I think it bought him enough time to almost come back and win the game with the to the last man. But GG to Fenrir and congrats.
Oh man, if that to the last man would have been enough to claw that game back, I don't that bombing run that we just suffered on the bunker here would have been the least of my the least surprising things that happened to me today. I mean, I was that would have been pretty insane. But let's bring up the bracket here and let's see how we are standing here in this tournament.
As you can see, CCMS won the first match up against Fenrir, and Darkness took the first match up against Yanju. Yanju and Fenrir then faced off in the loser bracket, with Fenrir winning that matchup and moving on into the loser bracket finals. That means Fenrir has ensured that he will be returning tomorrow. He will be returning tomorrow and playing a best out of 5 for a chance to get on into the finals. The next match that we're going to be looking at is going to be between the two winners. It's going to be between the two undefeated players in this bracket, which is CCMS and Darkness. And I am beyond excited for this one, guys.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the match that most people have been looking forward to, and it's going to be real exciting to see.
So I'm waiting for the bands here. Looking at this. Really unfortunate that we got the picture of Yanju a little bit late, so we weren't able to put it up into the broadcast. So the bans has been sent to me from Darkness. I'm waiting on the confirmed ban here from his opponent, CCMS. Once we know that, we're pretty much ready to go in.
I think the deck which I would either ban or look out for if I was CCMS is once again this Feigned Retreat aggro deck. I do think it's, whether he realizes or not, sort of his speciality. I do think he's really, really powerful with it, and that's the deck I would be most afraid of if I was CCMS going into this game.
Yeah.
As for what deck I think Darkness should ban against CCMS, I'd be tempted to say just ban the Bridair deck. I think they're super, super scary. And I feel like it's a lot easier to not deal with them and just ban them than to figure out a strategy to consistently beating them and not just getting blown out of the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, another deck to mention too from Darkness is his Brit with Germany deck. You know, Darkness's favorite nation is Britain, and I think he has the most experience with Brit control. I think. But, you know, here we're seeing this awesome Reichsbank sort of commandos deck, enabling you to have these huge turns with the extra credits you gain from Reichsbank. So this would be my most anticipated deck to see from him for this match.
I absolutely agree. I got to say, you know, I love the Reichsbank Commando deck. I love it even more now with the addition of that card where if you deal damage to the enemy units, they get pinned. It's a lot of fun, I'm not gonna lie. And I can't wait to see how that fares in a tournament setting because I still feel like that's a fairly powerful deck. And it feels like Darkness has been running this, you know, he's been running Britain fairly consistently, but he's been getting his British deck banned out almost consistently. I don't think I've seen him play Britain in the tournament so far. So, you know, are we gonna see it? I kind of doubt it. I think CCMS is going to ban it.
Yeah, we might see that, especially because I'm not sure CCMS has a deck that can really kind of crack that big hit point nut that British kind of commando Commonwealth deck would really bring. And I'd be surprised to not see that deck banned.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be as well. So maybe you guys can keep an eye out for me on the Top 4 channel here on Discord and push Zingling to send us the ban here for CCMS. We are currently just waiting for both players to get set up and ready. Before we head on into this series, I want to talk a little bit about your predictions. You know, this is a best of 3 series. This is the final best of 3 series that we have in this tournament. So this is the final time where you're going to have any flexibility on what decks you bring because you have one surplus deck, right? When we go into tomorrow, there's going to be one deck ban, so you know exactly which 3 decks are remaining here for, you know, either Darkness or whoever else is there. So who do you think is going to take this one, guys? And in what order do you think we're going to see these decks come out?
I think Darkness, assuming his Brit one doesn't get banned, I imagine he'll bring that game 1. I assume he's eager to bring it since it's been banned fairly consistently. I think if he takes game 1, he'll bring Feigned Retreat aggro again in game 2 and just try and close out the series with that. If he loses game 1, I imagine we'll see him bring the same deck again, whichever one he ran in game 1. As for CCMS, I think we'll probably see the tokens deck come out, and I think we might see the Bridair deck be his deck he chooses to start with. I'd imagine he'd try and play the more aggressive decks up against Darkness and just try and close out the game as soon as he can.
Yeah, I think I'd kind of be surprised if Darkness brings his USA British ramp deck. I think he seemed really comfortable with his Soviet German value deck. That one seemed very powerful when we did see it. And of course, his Feigned Retreat aggro is also very strong. But obviously, I feel his British deck is what he's going to be the one to get if he can, and probably fall back on Soviet value and Japan aggro if possible. I don't think we're going to see the ramp deck from Darkness.
Yeah, just from Darkness, I agree with you guys. I think his Commando deck and his Feigned Retreat deck are his two strongest decks that he's bringing today. Almost certainly one of those two decks is going to get banned. I really don't want to see any sort of tokens deck from CCMS. I think the deck is really poorly positioned for the World Championship here, as we've seen with Yanju, and so I think definitely I'd be surprised if Darkness bans the Soviet deck. But other than that, yeah, I think CCMS's his two best decks are going to be the German with Japan, more of a control deck, and I also think the air deck as well, Brit with USA. I think it would be super strong.
Yeah. So predictions, who do you think is going to take the series, and is this going to be a 2-0, or are we going to be seeing a 2-1 here? Let's start with you, Bubbles.
I think it's safe to say it'll probably be a 2-1. Both these players getting this far already, both very strong players, and generally the stronger the players, the more likely it is to go to a 2-1 rather than someone just get swamped. I think realistically, Darkness has more experience and will probably take it 2-1, but I think CCMS is a bit of a fan favorite as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people were rooting for him. But I think realistically, Darkness 2-1.
Okay. What about you, Scout?
I'm going to have to agree with Bubbles here for the most part. Both of these players have incredible integrity. I don't think we really see any misplays, and if we do, like very, very rarely from either of them. They're almost like computers playing their deck, They're both computers on max settings, It's just
Quality on ultra, ray tracing on.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be tough. I'm personally rooting for CCMS because he's really surprised me coming in here. This started, I had no idea who he was, but we saw the interview. Seems like a great guy. He's really surprised us with his play. Really done so many out of the box things, and it's just going to be exciting. I want to see how these two giants really clash together.
Yeah. What about you, Blue? How do you think this is going to go?
My prediction, it's going to be 2-0 to Darkness. He is the veteran player. He has the calm and collected mindset, which I think is needed to succeed at the highest level of cards that we've ever seen. And I think he has what it takes as far as getting good top decks. You have to have that little bit of X factor, the luck factor. I think that's going to play a role. And again, going back to the overall mindset of just not giving up and not giving in to the pressure.
Yeah, you know what? I want to touch upon that that mindset factor a little bit because, we do have a second part of the interview with CCMS, and we're going to see that tomorrow before his match. But there, I kind of talked to him a little bit about, who is he looking forward to face in the tournament, and who is he afraid of, and it's kind of, the player he wants to face is Darkness, but it's also the player that he's most nervous to face, right? So And he talks about a lot of the Chinese player base being big fans of Darkness and looking up to him. So this is also for him, again, he's in his first international event in the kind of final stage in front of all the people. Possibly he's playing late at night at his time. He's playing against his idol in the game. That can play a huge role in just making you kind of just make that single misplay or single, different decision that ends up losing you the game.
I think the mainstay nerves I can't talk English all of a sudden. The main stage nerves are definitely something to think about coming to these sort of tournaments. I think Darkness is proving himself to be one of the most experienced with that, up there with Fenrir, but I think in recent history, Darkness has attended a lot more events, and I think that's definitely very, very valuable and not something you can really train for overnight, unlike practicing with a certain deck where you can very quickly get very good at it. Tournament practice is more of a slow process that you have to build up over time, and I think he's definitely got the most of that.
That's true, and I know that there has been extensive testing, within Team Ammo on every single deck. And from the moment that we released the deck lists this morning and until the first series of today, and I'm guessing between the series as well, Darkness has been playing, back to back games against J King, his scrimming partner, against these decks that these players are bringing. So I'm assuming that he's probably taken every single one of his decks and played at least 3 or 4 games against every single one of CCMS's decks. And I wonder if that's something that, CCMS is doing on the other side. CCMS and Yanju, they came into this, as friends. They've been helping each other out quite a bit, throughout the tournament process and testing decks and building decks. But I don't know if it's to the same extent that we're seeing, Darkness and Team Ammo take it. And oftentimes when you get to this stage, it's that little bit extra that takes you over the hill and secures that victory. But then again, I'm not going to discount CCMS because CCMS came into the top 16, top 8, and he just did stuff that we've never seen before. I think anyone that can do that, 2 years into the game, just suddenly, bring some slight variations to decks, flow credits forever, understand the game, at such a fundamental level that they're able to recognize, me not making a move is beneficial to me in the long run, right? Like, I think that is something that not a lot of players have, and I think that's what makes CCMS such a dangerous opponent.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with
Absolutely.
most of that. His credit floating is definitely something that's been spoken about a lot, and I think people are still kind of analyzing it and trying to understand it. But I think he does have this sort of advantage of not being as established, and that can actually give you an advantage, even though I think I'd prefer to be established and have this sort of experience that Darkness has. Not being established means you look at things in a new light, and you can make moves which your opponent doesn't really expect or hasn't calculated properly, and then you can catch them off guard and out of position, and then you can take the game from there.
Yeah, I just got the bans confirmed here for us. Darkness has banned the German deck from CCMS, and CCMS has indeed banned Britain. It seems like nobody wants to give Darkness even a chance to bring Britain. I feel like after this World Championship is over, before the patch hits, I'm gonna go commando to commando with Darkness. I'm gonna challenge him from a commando off. Just want to see if I have the mettle to take on the most feared deck in all of Cards.
Oh, might end up embarrassing yourself. I don't know.
Oh, I definitely will. But you see, didn't you see me like yelling at the top of my lungs with a helmet on in front of a live audience earlier? Embarrassing myself is part of the deal here, I feel like. But yeah, we're just waiting for the players to issue the challenge. They're adding each other, getting each other on the friends list, getting everything set up. And before we head on into this series, I wanna ask you guys something. I was thinking, kind of throughout Christmas break and stuff, I was wanting to potentially do regular streams where you guys could maybe teach me some cards. Is that something you guys would be interested in doing with me?
How yeah.
Absolutely.
know
We
the
can
rest.
we'll bring back Coach a Dev.
Yeah.
I don't know if the newer players know about the old Coach a Dev series, but yeah, I'm totally happy to help bring that back.
I feel like the Christmas break could be a great time of that. There's been a ton of crunching, a ton of work being put into getting everything out, and now I really do want to get back into learning the game, right? And just really understanding the impact of breakthrough and how it's impacting the top of the ladder and really every stage of the game.
Yeah, every time I see you, you're playing Commando. It's time for you to learn something new.
Hey, you know what I did? So I think I got like 15 stars or something in my Soviets. I went from like private to like getting 15 stars. That's what I did last season most of the time. So I'm widening my horizons a little bit, Scout. I mean, I'm not fully making hyper ramp decks that play the entire deck on a single turn, but then again, I don't have your creativity.
When are we going to have the Get Coached by a Dev stream where you teach us how to play Commandos properly?
All right, guys, we are into the game. It is time. Darkness versus CCMS in this winner bracket finals. Whoever wins this series is going to move on into the grand finals and start with a 1-game advantage against whoever can make it out of the loser bracket and secure that other spot in the grand finals. This is Darkness versus CCMS. This is the game we have been waiting for, and we are seeing Darkness bring his Soviet deck against the US ramp from CCMS.
Yeah, this could be a tough matchup. I think it could go either way because Soviet value, obviously, lots of really strong, potent units that come out, and I think it's a matter of if ramp can destroy all these units, or if Darkness just straight up outvalues the ramp and just gets too wide and too big too quickly for CCMS to handle.
This is an awesome starting hand, it looks like, from Darkness.
Something to look out for in this game is this T-3485. I don't think we've seen these much in Soviet value, and I think Darkness is the first person to bring it to a competitive deck. And seeing how it matches up in this ramp game could be super, super important to how this Soviet deck performs for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, that's actually a really great point. And so how important do you feel like it was that Darkness found Night Witches there turn 1?
That was huge. I say the most distinct advantage, just card for card, that Soviet has over this deck, and especially in this matchup, is that inevitability of Night Witches, right? CCMS will fatigue. Darkness will not fatigue. And that, I think, is a huge
Got the
X
eye roll
factor here.
I think maybe a bit risky for Darkness to drop out that second Katusha without being able to attack. As we see a lot with British US ramp, Carpet Bomb is a very real threat.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, he could be walking into a board wipe now. CCMS does have the credits, but he does not have the card in hand.
I think I'd like to see the East Sari as well as the Snipe come out. Take out one of those Kayushas and then just put down the East Sari as well. Use the Airborne to snipe, of course.
Yeah. Looks like that's exactly what you will see here. The Engineer's coming out early. Only lost 1 unit so far at Darkness, so he could be finding a lot of value in those.
you might see the Hammer come out and the face pressure continue from Darkness.
Yeah.
CCMS
might just win this game with. You might just win the game with 845ths and just keep going face.
That's actually true. I mean, he has. Oh, and he has it from the people, so he can board clear.
I think you just hit for 5 damage here, possibly 6. I mean, that's 50% of CCMS life total.
That's what he's debating. Maybe the attack right now is too risky, and it gives CCMS a chance to come back, or maybe he should just clear that unit. And because obviously, if CCMS had a Carpet Bomb there, he would have played it.
Yeah.
I think, and I think Darkness knows that, so he's probably betting on the fact that he does not have an answer for this wide board.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you make a good point there, Blue Blast. He could take him down to 6 there, but I feel like whenever, I feel like this is one of the great things about Cards, right? He's forced into a decision there that doesn't exist in a whole lot of other card games where he has to make a decision. Do I keep pouring on the pressure or use my cards? And I think this is a decision that a lot of people can make mistakes in. I think this is where I make a ton of mistakes. And I want to highlight right now, if the next few turns don't go well for him and he loses, that might have been the game losing decision.
CCMS dropping the Black Watch, unfortunately, hits nothing for him as Darkness has no orders in hand. Definitely, I think would have been better off.
There by dropping the Black Watch. It forces Darkness to use most of his credits just to take out the Black Watch.
Yeah.
True.
He's holding the carrier cover there. I wonder if it's going to use it to ramp or if he's going to make something. Yeah, sending a unit, sending it back to the hand.
It's a good tempo play. It kind of takes the pressure off a little bit here with the 2-3s, forces him to replay it.
I think it's time to start, dropping these big units. You can start pressuring face for big amounts of damage as well.
CCMS, I think he's got a handful of like big AoE buff cards, but
I think you play the
great.
Wrath and bounce, and then you drop the We Can Do It as well.
Yeah, he can bounce the FW there. He can also opt to ramp if he wants to, but We Can Do It definitely makes sense here. What is that 10 cost card that he draw? Is that strategic planning?
It is indeed.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
So we're getting to the point where strategic planning could come in, and that could be huge for him.
On a Sky Barons,
the Sky Barons.
A great card to get.
I mean, look at potentially the next couple of turns from CCMS, right? He's going to have 11 credits. He's going to be able to.
You can take the front line here. You can clear the front line. Or you can delay until you want to take the front line and then buff it in one turn with like the Cadet Nurse Core.
I feel like you bounce the FW, you Seaborn Invasion possibly, and set up for an insane strategic planning.
Kind of like We Can Do It as well. I know you miss out on one credit. Just going to go for the Grenadier Guards. I think that's safe.
Oh my god!
Oh!
Night Witches is
Night
gone.
Witches. Inevitability is now disappeared.
The Focke-Wulf's kind of biting Darkness in the ass here. Keeping his hand a little too full.
Oh my god, that was a huge discard there. And look at it. Dude, Grenadier Guards, they can be huge with the strategic planning. And CCMS has the freedom to do what he wants in terms of the setup.
I think strategic planning might be the play here, or a Seaborn and a Cadet Core, and then a strategic.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
may
I
be
like
a little
that,
too
yeah.
greedy. That may be too greedy. We'll have to see.
I think you go greedy here though, because you know Darkness can't go infinite. I think you just do the Seaborn and
I think you're
the
right,
Cadet Nurse.
because we all know Soviet's weakness is like AoE removal.
Yeah.
So this
What
could
about
be
just
fascinating.
double the attack and defense of each, and then value trade with the lightning into the Focke-Wulf?
Gonna go for the move up.
Looks like he wants to go a little bit wider on the board here. He's playing a 6 credit
saving.
Corsair.
Maybe a rescue mission with it? Oh no, we can't do that. I
No.
counted wrong. Leaving his face open. Okay.
Oh, not guarding the HQ either. That is bold.
I think he's
he's
going
going
for
for
the
that.
big plays next turn. Just
Yeah.
trying to start putting the pressure onto Darkness, just because he knows he has such big buffs in hand, but it's definitely brave.
I mean, strategic
Darkness looking
planning.
for that naval brigade. There it is. Huge naval brigade.
Ooh.
Another
You get it.
concern here is he's made this bomber able to put these units into critical hit and naval brigade range.
Yeah. Bloody Sickle. He has so many ways to now get rid of that.
I think
he can heal for 7 as well, making it even harder for CCMS to finish off the game.
Hammer's good. Straight into that. That's a very nice clear.
Oh, and wow.
Very nice.
Wipes the board.
What a huge turn there for Darkness. And what do you do now if you are CCMS? Do you just ramp twice?
It's hard to say. That was a lot of momentum he lost. I think he maybe went wide in the wrong way, perhaps.
That might have been one step too far in terms of it being greedy.
I think the Seaborn Cadet Nurse Corps was probably the better play, looking back on it.
And the KV here coming in for Darkness means that the double draw next turn could potentially deal 4 damage to CCMS's face. And CCMS, he has the rescue mission on that Blackwatch. So, you know, Darkness killing that is going to be potentially painful for him. But it looks like he's not even going to go for it.
He has no orders in hand, assuming he uses the hammer to kill it.
Yeah.
Well, and also, yeah, I mean, double Blackwatch is good, but there's no orders in hand for Darkness. So it's just blank here.
Wow. Might see the Seaborn come out now.
He's got the commandos as well. I don't think it's over, but he's certainly in a rough position. If he gets a good Seaborn into a Cadet Nurse, he can keep his front line alive, and then he can buff them up and use the Blackwatch to protect from the FWs. See the Seaborn?
The Seaborn,
Not the worst.
not the worst, yeah.
Certainly not
Great,
what you're
and it was
looking
terrible.
for. You want a unit that's going to have more than 4 health so that you can buff it up and trade into the naval and negate the ambush.
I'm starting to hear a little bit of crackling around your voice, Bubbles.
My apologies.
I wonder if that was if you hit your audio cable or something. Potentially. But that Seaborn, okay, rolling a 5/5, but also a milk truck, so not exactly what you want to see.
Darkness kind of wanted to play that 6 Airborne, but he did not have enough space in his support line to actually get the T-34 spawn from it.
And I mean, I'm starting to worry a little bit here for CCMS.
Well, think about this, Go. CCMS can Cadet Nurse and Strategic Planning on the same turn.
Yeah. And that means that, you know, Darkness cannot afford to leave anything alive.
I think it's worth noting that you have to play the Cadet first, because then that +1/+1 gets doubled as well.
Yeah. I wonder if we might see that.
What order you play it in.
I wonder if we might just see that now.
He doesn't have the 2 credits left over to trade though. I think we'll just see the East Surrey and the Cadet, and he might not play it yet, because if you play both, you're down to 1 credit, and you can't use these guys to trade with the FW.
Yeah.
Or just to take out the tank in the backline.
But I mean, at least you put up a 12-12 body in the front line.
I do like Blackwatch, East Surrey, Cadet Nurse, and then kill the KV2 with your 6/6 Marines there in the front line.
You can push up as many
Very
units as you
powerful.
can into the front line as well to try and get some presence.
Yeah, it looks like that's the play, going to be the play here.
See him trade.
Man, that engineer battalion is doing God's work right now for Darkness.
Yeah.
Just trying to think, what does CCMS need here? Maybe a mobilization? Some sort of way of refilling his hand very quickly.
Yeah. Mobilization.
Oh, there it is.
And the benefit of ramp, he still has 10 credits left, and he found
and a
that carpet bomb.
carpet.
Also has a we can do it and
Yep.
a air defense to just straight up kill that Focke-Wulf if it tries to attack again.
You can drop the commandos, drop the we can do it, buff up the commandos, and then drop the air defense as well. But you kind of want to hit a unit that's not damaged with air defense, since it instantly destroys air unit.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's what we're going to see here, and I think that FW is going to fall prey to that air defense.
That's what it's looking like.
Yeah, B17 from the we can do it. Very powerful card to get. Might better take out those engineers, but I feel like they've already done so much work, they're not your target anymore.
Huh.
Yeah, what does Darkness do here? I think maybe you lead with the Focke-Wulf, move up the 6/8, play your T-34.
The Sky Barons
So
could maybe get that B17 later, but right now it's pretty useless.
You might see Kyusha get sniped as well by this air defense if he leads with Kyusha.
oh, and that looks like he's doing that. That is such a big brain play there, playing around air defense so well.
I feel like you potentially just carpet bomb. You could also just play the strategic bombing. The amount of defense these units are going to get with not strategic bombing, planning. Play strategic planning, the amount of defense these units are going to get, they're so difficult for Soviets to deal with. You need critical hits to get past them.
Yeah, and Darkness, I believe, does not have that.
Strap bombing there and a Pershing, and I mean that Pershing could become a huge issue for Darkness if he ends up getting the strategic planning off on that Pershing.
Yeah, CCMS very, very patient with holding a strategic planning here.
Yeah.
Just wants to get maximum value, which I think is the correct way to play. In a matchup like this, you just want to go for the greediest play that you can.
Not too many fantastic units in Darkness's hand right now. A lot of his big boys have been knocked out. That's 3 Focke-Wulfs that you've seen. KV-1 gone, Naval Brigade gone.
The
I
red
wonder how many
banner.
cards are left in the deck for CCMS.
I mean, it looks like there's still quite a bit.
He could red banner the Focke-Wulf and get a Tiger, potentially.
Is that what you want to do?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think he's thinking about it.
Risk is Avenger. If your Tiger gets hit by an Avenger, it's just
Oh!
Going for it.
Oh yeah, okay. Tiger E.
I think Chaika is very good for, protection against that.
Oh, and there's an Avenger. And CCMS can basically attack with the Blackwatch into the T-35 and guarantee to take out that Tiger with the Avenger.
And if the Avenger gets hit by the Sky Barons, you know your B-17 is more safe now because you've seen the Sky Barons come out and get used already.
Exactly.
And we've seen the other one get overdrawn as well, so...
And remember, guys, Darkness has no Night Witches left in his deck.
And he's going to go for the play, going to take out the Tiger, it looks like.
Yeah, that was an excellent play. Really
And
well
he's gonna
thought out.
ramp himself up to, is that 17 credits now?
Yep.
Yeah. He can now blitz the Pershing and attack with it.
So
Yeah.
the only change coming with Breakthrough that is in effect in the game at the moment is that the cap is 24 credits. So CCMS not able to go above 24 credits, but I don't expect him to go there anyway. So
Looking pretty rough for Darkness.
he
I
has
know
no-
CCMS has lower health, but he's really losing that board presence.
Yeah, and I mean, again, there's no possibility to go infinite, and that parade could have been, that could have been a make or break parade possibly.
Down to 9 cards left in his deck.
Oh, finding the hammer though.
Kind of want to hit the Pershing of your hammer though.
Yep.
It's a really good way of just getting through that heavy armor. I wonder if we're going to see the Pershing come out next time. We've seen the Naval Brigade already.
Might see a carpet bomb. Maybe
I think
not.
if we see double Cossacks come out, not this turn, but like next turn, I think you wait 1 turn to do the carpet bomb in this current situation.
Willing to sacrifice his fighter there to get rid of that Black Watch in the front line.
That's second
I think
carpet
it's a
bomb.
smart play.
CCMS has enough credits if he wants to push the M26 Pershing up and attack with it, but definitely doesn't have to. He's holding on to 2 carpet bombs as well.
You could just drop the Pershing and then just kind of hold it back. You don't have to push it up on this turn.
He could also guard it, and you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
looks like that's what he opts to do.
Ooh, Tractor Factories is a very good top deck. However, it is still weak to these double carpet bombing CCMS has.
Yeah, and CCMS has enough credits to do them within the same turn.
I think we're going to see one come out next turn, and he'll hold the second one for when he needs it.
Yeah, and I mean, especially now that both of those tanks coming out of the buckets are 2 HP, I think we're, instantly going to see
Or
that
we see
carpet
the
bomb.
strategic planning. That would be fun to see. The 16-16 Pershing.
I wouldn't hate it.
That would be incredible.
I feel
it's
like
not a bad
dropping the
plan.
B-17 is safer. You could also drop the P-40.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
perfect.
opts for the board clear.
On next turn, you
Because
play
it-
strategic planning, and you hit face for a ridiculous amount of damage. You're putting on darkness on a very quick clock. If darkness doesn't kill this Pershing now, which he can do,
Well,
He
just
can.
now with that top deck. I mean, if he had
could
left the
with
5-1,
Cossacks.
that would have been
he
able to
can do it
trade.
with the Cossacks still, though.
But yeah, I guess he would have had to do Cossacks, and Hammer, and that's
Yeah.
that's his
Yes.
whole turn basically.
Guys, what an insane
heal,
game so
but-
far.
Yeah, losing that Night Witch is, I think, absolutely clap darkness.
That is so brutal.
And the Grenadier Guards coming here out to defend the B-17, meaning that it will live to see another day and can kind of clear the board a little bit for free. The P-40 coming out as well, slowing down the speed at which CCMS can, that Darkness can get those units out there and start making them work.
So it's still in CCMS's deck. I believe he has possibly a couple Brit cards, but for the most part, there's an M4A1, there's some ramp left in there, and there's a high altitude bombing that could potentially be a very, very big card to get.
Transfer probably going to go kill that P-40, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Otherwise,
But his Darkness hand is just decimated. A couple of Flame
Thanks.
Panzers and a Chaika are just no match.
he's only got 4
For-
cards left in his deck.
think about it. This game is an entirely different game if he still has Night Witches. Even with 4 cards left,
100%.
you know that he's going to be able to Night Witch and Night Witch and Night Witch and from the people and deal with everything. And now high altitude bombing coming out as well.
I think I'd like to see the carpet come out, but I think you trade first. You take out the mini Chaika,
Yeah.
and then you play carpet bomb, and it will clear it, and then you push up the 5-9.
Yeah.
I agree there. Yep. There's no reason to
Thankfully,
strat
going
planning
for it.
now. Not until your Grenadier Guards is in position.
So I do think if you're Darkness, your only way you can see yourself winning this game is if CCMS dies to fatigue before you do. He's only got a few more cards in his deck than you do. If you can hold out for long enough, if you can Sky Barons that B-17 maybe, you might better survive.
Ooh, what could he get with the heroes of the Soviet Union?
I think a Naval Brigade is probably his
Yeah.
best chance.
Naval Brigade is definitely his best chance. Joseph Stalin.
I think
don't
you
know.
have to take the Stalin because the KV is not going to do much damage. I don't think there's even enough cards in CCMS's deck for it to do enough to be
No.
lethal.
No.
Unfortunately for him, this high altitude may be the nail in his coffin.
The high altitude bombing is going to
Or the
ensure.
strat planning and just do 20 damage
Just-
base.
Yeah, just strat plan. It's time.
I mean, I feel like he's been so patient with it so far. He might not even need to. Just keep holding it.
I think you're right. I think it's more of we want to see the strategic
Yeah.
planning now
Oh yeah.
for the style points.
And the Stalin coming out, and that's perfect for him to have held that high altitude bombing there. He's able to just get that Flampanzer out of there, high altitude bombing, or take out the Panzer III. Either way, and he can play the Corsair and strat planning at the beginning of next turn. So he's going to be able to deal a ton of damage next turn
This is over for poor Darkness.
Yeah, and the Panzer 3H is not going to be enough. Oh my god, and a B-17.
I think you got a strat now. We want to see the strat. Please strat.
Do it. Do
Strat!
it for the people.
Do it fast!
Yes.
And that,
10, 20.
that's going to be it. That's going to be
Darkness
it.
waiting to let CCMS do some damage to him before he surrenders. Doesn't want to take too long to end the game, but wants to let CCMS have his fun first.
CCMS taking game 1 against Darkness. Wow. Like, that game was insane. I mean, the fact that, you retreat that FW, I don't, I'm
poor
at a
Night
loss for
Witches, dude.
words.
That poor Night Witches.
Man, I wonder how you feel when you see that Night Witches get discarded there in such an important match, right?
Yeah, that's not something that happens in like 50 spar matches with J King. That's
No, and I mean,
it's hard
You're
to see that
absolutely right.
coming.
I mean, how he has like 30 cards in his deck at that point, right? So it's like 1 against 30 that it's the only card that's basically, going to secure him the game. Because I think, if he has Night Witches throughout that whole thing and he's able to play that a couple of times on the way to the end of the deck, I think he's able to much better deal with the board of CCMS and potentially win that game.
Easily. Yeah, like we were saying earlier, the main advantage that the Soviet deck has over a deck like CCMS's US ramp is that inevitability of the Night Witches. I mean, that card could single-handedly have saved Darkness this game.
Yeah. Wow.
I think that's one of the drawbacks with the Soviet value deck, though. When part of your game plan is going infinite around 1 card, most decks built around 1 card are more weak to, I don't know, overdraw or discard and things like this. And he put his faith in the Night Witches, and he got unlucky. And you can't plan for being unlucky, but it's very unfortunate, and it's one of the risks of building your deck plan around just 1 or 2 cards.
But all right, now we're heading on into game number 2, right? And for Darkness, this is all on the line, right? He cannot lose another game, and then he goes on into the loser bracket, where he's going to have to face off against Fenrir, the guy that knocked out his teammate J King 7 in the top 16. The other seasoned veteran in here. What do you bring into this next game if you're Darkness, knowing that CCMS is not going to have his US deck again?
Honestly, I think you should bring the same deck again.
I disagree. I think you have to go to your fallback deck, which I think for Darkness is going to be his Feigned Retreat aggro. I think it's his second best deck behind his Brit deck, and it can go the distance versus these really bloated top-heavy control decks.
Wow. I mean, I got to say, we've kind of like this day has been a little bit up and down. We've run into some technical difficulties. The bunker got bombed. Things have been a little bit, shaky. But now we've gone into this game. We've been able to see this game from both sides pretty well. And, I'm just at a loss for words, to be honest. I cannot wait to go into the next game here of this series. The players are just finalizing their setup as far as I can understand. Do we know how long, roughly?
What deck do you guys think you want to see CCMS bring to game 2?
His
a good question,
German deck
Bubbles.
was banned, right? So that leaves it between Tokens and British US Air.
I think I'd like to see the Brit US Air, personally, guys.
Yeah, I think I would too.
I
I don't
agree.
think Tokens
just
are
don't
the way
wanna
to
see-
go.
I don't want to see Tokens. No, I don't.
Here's the thing, right? Okay, now that you're talking about it, right? He has Tokens and Brit Air left, right? If you're Darkness and you bring the Soviet value deck into the Tokens deck, do you have what you need to be able to keep those tokens down, or are you going to be relying on, the luck of the draw, getting your removal early, getting those Kachushas early, being able to deal with it as it comes out? Or are you better off, playing the Feigned Retreat deck that's going to be a favorite into that? And how does the Feigned Retreat deck play into Brit Air? Is that something that it has a ton of difficulties dealing with? Obviously, a ton of low 1 health units against those potential bombers, right?
I think the Soviets would be very strong into
Well,
a tokens deck,
It's
but it looks like
tokens,
it's
Flo.
It's
Yeah,
Feigned
tokens.
Retreat
It's
Nagro.
tokens, and Feigned Retreat is heavily favored, in my opinion. You have Desperate Measures, you have Bombing Raid,
Oh,
Whew,
almost threw that away.
almost threw it away.
I had a miniature heart attack there.
And this
Yeah, that
Enigma
would've
is
been a
really,
bad-
really good against tokens. CCMS fills his hand with light infantry, and then you play Enigma and fill your hands of much more valued cards.
Yeah, and
33rd Recon also really good into tokens.
yeah, and looking at it, CCMS already able to get some board pressure out there if he wants to. He can play 3 small units now. I wonder if he's
Very
gonna
strong.
is he gonna challenge here for the front line, giving the 33rd Recon a close range target to trade into, or?
I think he should, because that Darkness has to spend a credit for that trade, and then CCMS is free to get a buff out on his light infantry and then move them up.
Yeah.
Unless Darkness wants to Desperate Measures here, which
I don't like the turn to Desperate Measures, though. What you gain in short term, you can lose in long term just by this this credit loss. Right now, it'd be 50% of his credits. If he waits a few turns, it would just be like 25% of his credits.
So next turn here, CCMS is going to have 3 credits, and if Darkness chooses to just play the Akita, he would be able to buff that that infantry unit in the front line up to a 4/4, and already start pouring on the pressure.
I think you have to just turn 2 Desperate Measures here,
Choosing.
I kind of agree with Blue there.
the Akita. I mean, it sets you back a credit, yes, but you still have plays in your hand, right? You just Akita the turn after, or you move up your first Recon. There's so many 1-drops in the deck as well. You could fill out your turn 3 in a way where you could move up Recon and play a 1-drop. Yeah, you're kind of leaving the door open here.
All right. I mean, CCMS is opting to go for what I would say is kind of the greedier play here and going even wider on the board, playing the reserves. I would expect us to see him play more of those light infantry units.
I think the play here might be a Unity. Maybe not.
Frontal
Maybe not.
assault.
That's probably all right.
Okay.
I think the frontal assault probably is the safer play. Because Darkness has Flampanzers. So if you go for the Unity on the unit in the front line and then it gets Flampanzered, you've lost a lot of steam.
Oh, that's a. Okay. I misread that. I thought that 15th Cav would make a difference, but it doesn't.
I think now you drop 2 tokens and then you play the Unity. Now you can get instant kind of damage from this. And you didn't see a Flampanzer come out there. There's probably not one in Darkness's hand.
I think that's the play. It looks like that's what he's going for.
Yeah, and that's going to put it to a 5/6. And he can attack with it, dealing 5 damage to face here, already putting on some pressure. And this might be a sticky one. Oh!
Oh, but
The plot armor shines through.
What a massive top deck there for Darkness.
Oof.
Yeah, you bloody sickle first in the hope that it hits your face. Increase the chance of it not hitting a token by doing it first. Finds a no surrender. This is just going to get instantly hit by a Desperate Measures. It's going to set him back so far.
But again, let's not forget, these token decks, if they get the right draw, they do not stop, right? You can be on turn 8, turn 9, you can have killed everything multiple times, but they just keep coming sometimes. It's a massive Desperate Measures, though.
Yeah.
Not a great hand for CCMS
Yeah,
here
I
now.
don't even know what to say. That is just absolutely backbreaking.
He's not even able to Again, having to use the frontal assault to get the light infantry units, it's just always so painful.
Yeah. He's running out of steam here. Even if he pulls like a what is it, industrial might to draw cards, he doesn't have any units to draw cards with that, and it's just
Exactly. And what do you want to see here from Darkness? Do you want to see him just put the Taipei up into the front line, or attack face, get a Mito regiment out, get a Nikita in the front line?
Honestly, if he starts
no,
killing
he
these
clears
tokens,
tokens.
then
He clears
GG.
tokens. Just
You
like
have
usual.
to just
Clears
keep the same
tokens.
strategy. Yep, you have to keep that same strategy of just removing every single token before it has the opportunity to grow.
He's been doing it all day. I don't see any reason for him to stop now.
That we can do it coming out a little bit too late there for CCMS. No units really on board for him to make use of that. That mass attack not doing anything either, and that Yura not doing anything as well. So, and he's not looking for a unity there.
It's starting to
I
feel like GG. I think you get a type end to the front line along with a bicycle regiment, and then you think about your kind of damage over the next 2 or 3 turns rather than your damage this turn.
Yeah.
I think people keep making the mistake of trying to run tokens against Darkness. I think Darkness has proven that he knows this matchup many, many times.
Cuban Cossacks coming out can get rid of the Taipei regiment.
You can buff it up as well if he wants to keep it alive, but instead just going to go for the straight trade.
Oh,
Is
he
he
didn't
mass attacking?
mass attack first.
Oh, that was the wrong order, seems to be there.
And that's what we're talking about, the big stage nerves. We talked about it before the game. I mean, even if you won game number 1, that's like winning game number 1 against, you know, the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan on the team, right? You still don't feel comfortable in game number 2, right?
Oh, that's over. It's over.
Yeah, that alliance not gonna help him. And a sense of frustration clearly coming out of CCMS as Darkness ties the series 1-1. And these guys are not going down into the loser's bracket without a fight, that's for sure. Wow. And now Darkness doesn't have the Feigned Retreat deck. What do you do if you're CCMS? What do you do if you're Darkness? What are we going to see in this third game, guys?
I'd really
I
like to
think-
see the Brett Air deck come out, honestly.
Yeah, retire the tokens. Do not play the
Yes.
tokens. They do not work in tournament. I'm really starting to believe what Blue said earlier. It's just, I think all tokens are really, and the reason they work better in ladder, I think, is that they're more of just a removal check. You know, like if you know the strategy to beat tokens and just play whack-a-mole the whole time and have the cards to do it, that's really all you have to do. And as long as you keep doing the whack-a-mole, you're gonna be in a really good position. And yeah,
And it seems like, you know, Darkness is the kind of guy that's able to and willing to make those trades consistently and deal with tokens really effectively.
My prediction is we're going to see tokens again. I think, you know, what I've noticed in some top tournament players is that they won't switch decks. They
Yep.
just won't
Yeah.
switch decks. And here we go.
wow.
And you are correct. It is Soviet versus Soviet. It is the mirror matchup, but it is not the same deck by a long shot. This is tokens against value.
Ooh,
Yes, you
I
kind
don't
of get
think this is
to
gonna be
think to
GG.
get, you kind of get stuck in your own head thinking that, okay, I just had a bad game. I had bad draws and I can just run it back with the same deck. But in reality, I think it's just not calibrated for this tournament.
Lots of bloody sickles in CCMS's hand. I don't think that's gonna be too useful for him at the moment.
No, not at all. I mean, already has 3 of them in hand. That's probably not what he's looking for. Takes the front line, means that if the Chaika wants to attack that infantry unit, it's going to trade. I wonder if we're going to see like a guaranteed trade here for Darkness with the Bloody Sickle and attack, or if he's going to go for the Katyusha high roll here.
I doubt it. I highly doubt Darkness is gonna take the gamble, especially like this far into it. I think he's gonna go for the safe play, clear the infantry, and just do what he's got to do. and then he can use the Katusha to then kill the one spawn. Or he might go for a red banner.
So what do you potentially get here off the red banner? It's you can get a Cuban Cossacks from it, right?
Yeah.
Not if you red banner
on the Chaika?
Yeah.
Oh
the
no, you'll get a
Chaika.
4-drop. You could get a guard.
You could get the first rifles. You could get the 3-4 bomber for 4.
You can also get there's a 4/4 bomber as well. They have. Was that a 3K unit?
You could get
They
the
have a
5-3 with
fighter.
But
The
like we
5-3
said
with the
earlier,
ambush?
Darkness doesn't really want the first rifles in this deck because he wants to get to Night Witches, right?
That's true.
No, this is actually going to be a huge problem for Night Witches. Yeah, there's been conscious deck making decisions to actually not run first rifles.
So what we're
because
saying is
it
that
ruins it.
So what we're saying is that this is not what Darkness wanted.
I think this is a little out of character for Darkness. Kind of going for a gamble there, to be honest.
A bloody
I
sickle.
can't say I was expecting this play.
2 bloody sickles coming out. And CCMS still kind of just stacking up his hand, but you know, he's got that no surrender, but I don't know.
Darkness.
I mean, it could be possible that the game doesn't go that long to where the first rifle destruction will actually matter.
That could be another
But-
thing. I mean, maybe Darkness is thinking, I really don't want to, you know, spend time and just sit back and let him, you know, kind of control the pace here. I just want to go aggressive. I want to get rid of this Chaika, get 2 powerful units on the board, and just start pouring on the pressure.
I think this is an easy just no surrender turn here. Fill up the board. I mean, alternatively,
let's
you could
pause.
Katusha and shoot the plane, but you're leaving 1 credit unspent on kind of a critical mid-game turn.
I think,
I like
yeah, I think no surrender was the play there. But again, maybe he thinks Darkness has like bloody sickles or something.
Ooh, I mean, I would say that's probably the best possible Panzer III that Darkness can get against tokens, because both of those Sky Barons are now at the bottom of his deck, so he's not going to be wasting draws on it in the near future.
All right. See this come out.
I think it was just the wrong timing on that no surrender.
Gonna have to
I mean,
agree with you
now-
there, Blue.
Yeah, now Darkness can just keep value trading. He has a second unit down which he can use to kill one of these tokens.
Gets
And
the
now he has
engineers up.
the healing down.
Yep. And you're kind of forced to go through his units, and again, mobilization, that's not what CCMS wants.
He could go for an alliance here and just clear that front line and still have a 3-1 left over. And then go for a no surrender, frontal assault the following turn.
Yeah. But he is pushing kind of the tempo a little bit over to Darkness with that play, I feel like. You know, Darkness starts healing a little bit. He doesn't really develop a strong board with it. He's holding on to 2 mobilizations. I mean, he's finding all the cards that he wants in 3 turns, but they're already in his hand.
I think it is
I think
important to kill that first rifles because I think you want to clutter Darkness's deck with first rifles.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the strongest play here is no surrender plus frontal assault. Yes, trading in those 2 guys
okay.
first to lower the health a little bit on the first rifles.
Yeah, that also means that you push the infantry units out of the trade potential with the Panzer III. Darkness able to remove 2 units.
Yeah, if he decides to use the hammer,
Yeah.
I mean, he could just run. He could also just play the Siberian transfer and just trade that for one of them and save the hammer.
But then he wouldn't. Then he wouldn't be
You
able
could
to really
still
move up and attack with the other units.
I mean, he could trade with the rifles. Yeah, that's a tough turn. Looks like he might go for he's mousing over the Siberian transfer.
Yeah, because I think you definitely need to get another one of those tokens out of there.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah, looks like that's going to be the play. Because Hammer is, you know, if you think about it, the Siberian is a 6k removal versus the Hammer is really like a 3k.
Yeah.
Keeping the more efficient play for later on in the game where he's more constricted on credits.
Yeah, and CCMS here, he does not have, he does not have the token generation cards in hand. What he was really banking on there was being able to get off an alliance on the whole backline, which would have put him in a pretty good position. He could have played, alliance. He could have played a we can do it. He had a bunch of ways to buff him, but ending up going for the draw here, actually slowing down considerably.
I think the best play would have been just play Katusha plus alliance and pass the turn. You're gonna have 2 4/5s and a 3/4 Katusha versus just a 2/3 and 2 2/3s, right?
Yeah. I wonder. I don't think we're gonna see the Flampanzer come out this turn, right? Do you save it until
he could clear the board? Maybe a 3485 and a Flampanzer? Maybe debating a little bit which one he wants to take out. Leaving a light infantry on the front line is risky.
I almost feel like you hammer it over Flampanzer. You save the Flampanzer for when it's out of hammer range. Just get rid of it with the hammer right now, I think.
But the thing is, with the hammer, you don't get a unit on board, right? So, I mean, with this, he now has a unit that can trade on into the backline infantry unit. And again, CCMS not finding the cards that he needs.
He's having the really common problem with tokens is having not enough bodies and
Too many buffs. Yeah.
He can come down with a blitzed 3/4 Katusha if he plays alliance. You could guarantee kill the 845, but it's not a great spot.
No.
I mean, and Darkness has 2 tanks out, meaning that he's able to traverse the battlefield and get to those units, right? It's not like, in the case of Darkness against CCMS, he's able to kind of sit back and he knows that it takes time for those tokens to march across the field.
It's certainly one of the big drawbacks of tokens is the fact that everything is infantry. While these tokens are terrifying, they're pretty slow, and you've got time to react and find solutions to them.
Yeah.
The hammer coming out.
It's not over though.
It isn't.
Yes,
and
it's reserves. No. You can reserves. You can buff up.
There it is.
Very certainly in the late game.
That was a great top deck.
Yeah, and I wonder.
Yeah, you buff these up. If you can get a few tokens to survive for a couple turns and buff them up enough, you can potentially swing the game as tokens here.
Yeah, I say you go alliance first, because
Yeah,
if you
I
go
agree.
we can do it. They're only 1/4s, and then that T34 gets a nice value trade on a 1/4.
The downside to alliance is Flampanzer can now take one of these guys out rather than
Flampanzer
one
can
token
take 2
die
of them
and
out,
2
really.
tokens can die.
Ooh. I think it's a rough choice for Darkness.
Yeah,
I feel like you take tractor factories just for the late game.
I'm kind of
I
leaning
kind of
this
like
way.
Zukov. I don't know. I like Zukov into an airborne, or not airborne, naval brigade.
Yeah,
Be
that
pretty
could be
nuts
huge.
later on.
Could be huge. But I mean,
Keep
also,
in mind though, whatever you don't choose goes to the bottom of your deck. Do you really
Yeah.
want tractor factories from the bottom of your deck when you're going into the late game?
that's actually a good point. I mean, we're already at the point where he's only 2 turns away from being able to get maximum value out of those tractor factories. Another alliance being drawn here from CCMS has the ability to push out more tokens and buff even more. Can clear the front line from Darkness.
I think he drops the Katusha alliances and then just trades and moves up. Or something like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And then start. Then he does have a reserve, so on the next turn he could reserves plus Industrial Might to sort of refill the hand. He does just have mobilization as well. He has a lot of draw.
Yeah,
True.
he buffs it there. Goes for the trades. And moves up
And he gets the
probably
front
both.
line.
Yeah, 2 units.
Not bad. So definitely a lot more success coming out of tokens this round. Still could be anyone's game, but
I always feel like this is such a scary prospect for me to look at this. As CCMS goes deeper into the game, he can do more and more within each turn, right? Now he gets another Katyusha. He's still holding on to an alliance. He's still holding on to reserves. And all of a sudden, each turn on the token player's side becomes more and more scary.
I think the Katyusha and another alliance is going to be pretty spooky.
And then he's gonna have a 3-4 and a 3-7 artillery. And he can attack with both of them this turn, leaving only a 5-5 unit on the board for Darkness.
But if you can get one more token down as well, you can play reserves, drop a single token, and then alliance, and you can still hit with both of things. Or alternatively, you can use your buffed up infantry in the front line and attack with that disco. You could even hit first and then alliance.
Looks like you might go for the Ura here, maybe? Or not.
I think you want to
Alliance.
save Ura for when there's guards on the board. It's such an efficient way of dealing with guards, since you can overhit into a small guard and save that damage for face still.
Yeah, this is just a massive power play turn. And now the game has swung back in CCMS's favor, I think.
That's huge.
The tokens are really good at this sort of slow burn token deck. You think to yourself, oh, I've hit this kind of late game against tokens and they don't have anything, I'm winning. And then before you know it, there's these 2 buffed up Katyushas, there's these 2 guys in the front line, and there's just an onslaught of infantry coming your way.
You know what's actually crazy though? I mean, I honestly think that the first rifles is not going to be terrible for Darkness here.
I think with these Katyushas on board, it's much, much worse than it could be.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Darkness needs an answer for those Katyushas.
Can FW to try and snipe them because they'll just get killed instantly. Really needs some sort of hammer or naval brigade.
Ooh, and the time is ticking. The clock doth tick. I guess the saving grace here for Darkness is that, he's not under a ton of health pressure at the moment, right? He doesn't have to worry too much about his HQ HP at the moment. Because he hasn't been taking, hits from 7-7 infantry that he then has to clear. He hasn't been coming from behind this whole game. So he still has, some potential. He's got 2 cards in hand that will draw him a card. But
honestly, I think you Ura, you clear board, you completely reset everything Darkness had. Even if this doesn't proc, you don't really care because hitting that guy with 1 health, the splash damage still goes to face. It's fine by you.
another reserves. No, a mobilization coming out.
Immobilized with the KV still on the board.
Yeah. I wonder if that might have been a mistake from CCMS.
I don't think it was. I don't think you're overly fussed about the face damage. I think you've got so much to fall back on. And this is a fallback a lot of players have, is they don't see health as a resource. Your health is 100% a resource, and you can spend it on a small bonus right now. It's sort of a resource you have a lot of, and you're happy to fall back on.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair... Ooh.
That's huge!
It could be.
I mean, he's
Bloody Stick will clear the front line. You can potentially snipe a second Kyusha. He's also thinking about, hey, I want a Bloody Sickle and hammer that big one.
Yeah. I mean, draw first, right? Another Bloody
Sickle.
Sickle.
Brigade in deck, yeah?
He does, yep.
You take out Kyusha and the guy in the front line, and then you threaten killing the other Kyusha is how I play it.
And we've only seen one Unity is strength coming out of CCMS, right? So Darkness has to be afraid of that. So he definitely wants to get rid of some of those infantry units.
That first rifle's still coming back to just clog his deck up.
Yeah.
Like, sure, it can be all right, like here and there, but he really wants to get to his other units, I think.
Yep. And going for the combo to get that Katyusha out of there. Ooh, this game is a nail biter, guys.
Yeah, I think you had to get rid of the Katyusha there. CCMS though, here comes, like you guys said, a very strong aspect of tokens is sort of this endless wave upon wave of guys here.
And they don't stop coming in, they don't stop coming in, they don't stop coming in, they don't, that's how that song goes, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I think he mass attacks. Oh, no, okay.
Bloody sick.
Nice, he got the double roll.
And he finds a unity of strength.
I think you can even hammer the guy if you want to. If you just want to get rid of that healer, you can
Frontal
hammer
assault plus unity.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely explosive.
Holy moly, guys. 6th Airborne, huge.
This is brutal for Darkness. That's a lot for him to clear. Not over though, but.
And a hammer.
And again,
another unity.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness.
He can move
I
up
was
3. He can play 3. He's going to have, what, 7 on board? That's going to be a 7-7. That's going to be a 13-13 infantry in the front line. He has a hammer, so he can clear that. He can do 13 damage to face this turn.
My goodness.
Tokens, they just keep on coming.
Also to mention as well, these first rifles have clogged up 2 of Darkness's draws this game. You know,
draws that could have been, Night Witches, giving him from the people, potentially a card advantage, a bomber to ping these guys off the field.
That red banner on the Chaika is just coming back to haunt him this late into the game.
As
There's
that
the
Night
Night
Witch is
Witches.
finally finding it. I think it's far too late for it to be useful.
I don't think so. I don't think so. He's able to get rid of that big, that 6-3 unit with the Night Witches.
Sure, but is it enough to really do anything? Sure, that 3-4 Kyusha was a problem, but now there's a million problems.
I can maybe.
Oh!
Oh, the first rifles.
Again!
There's the first rifles again. I'm telling you, these games, some of these games can be decided in the very early turns of the game. Like what we saw with Darkness losing his Night Witches in the first game, and now Red bannering into a first rifles in this game.
And remember, I was saying earlier, like, it was so unlike Darkness to go for a gamble like that, and it's biting him, dude. It's really biting him.
Is that Euro sound from Night Witches, or is that a sign of things to come?
Night Witches.
Okay. I'm gonna say, if CCMS gets a Euro here, that could just be GG.
And that's 2 more tokens on the board that he can play. He has another unity in hand. He now has, that's 5, that's 7, that's 8. So that's going to be an 8 plus 8 plus 8, 14,
9 from
11.
the mass attack as well.
9 from the mass attack. Yeah, and that mass attack, that's not a card we see often. But look at CCMS's deck. He only has 4 cards left.
I'd be surprised if this game went on for that long, though, to be honest. With a hand like this, you've got so much burst potential. I don't think the game's going to go on for another 4 turns. Maybe take, 1 or 2 turns of fatigue at the most, but nothing you've got to worry about, really.
Going for the face. Absolutely huge, massive.
Threatening lethal.
Needs
Heroes
a
of the
naval.
Soviet Union. Could be a naval. Cossacks, not terrible. It can take out one of
terrible.
those. It can take out that 6-3.
I think this is over, Chief.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be enough, though.
No, I think chances are this is GG. He can even generate some draw. However, he's not got many.
Oh my god, that hammer is huge.
I'd like to see him drop the unit and draw one first, and he might better find lethal. You just play the Industrial Might and draw one. Don't draw too many. Save your credits.
What will give him lethal, though?
Another Eura.
Another Eura, yeah.
Buff will give him lethal.
Okay,
There's
so
not many
hammering.
token buffs that wouldn't.
I think you hammer that engineers here. Just
Yeah.
stop the healing.
No, I don't think you
guess
do.
it
I
is.
think you play like that and just go face. At this point, this engineers is gonna be 6 health maybe at
He's
the
going to play
most.
2 more units, and then he's going to Industrial Might and kind of
I
fill
don't-
up his hand again.
Oh, don't
I don't think
fatigue
he
yourself
should.
with Industrial
Yeah.
Might. please.
Oh, that's true.
He's not going to, kid.
Yeah.
That's not enough.
Night Witches off the top of his game.
GG.
That's not enough. There's an 11-13 light infantry unit in the front line, and CCMS is securing himself the first spot out of anyone in the grand finals. Taking out Darkness, taking out his idol in a grueling 3-match series.
Wow. So what's the opposite of an MVP? Because I think that's what First Rifles was.
Wow, guys.
That's the first player on the team.
Yeah.
The first rifles.
Man. How many 4
that
drops?
was, oh,
How many
That
4
was
drops did
stopping
the
him from
Soviet
getting
have?
Plum
I
Ponzer.
believe 5 or 6.
that First Rifle could have stopped him from getting Flampanzer, Naval Brigade, the Night Witches. It was just absolutely cluttering him up. I gotta sneeze.
Yeah. I mean, you have what, 5 or 6 4 drops you can get that aren't the First Rifles. He had
So,
like
4
29
drops.
cards that he could have discarded that weren't Night Witches.
There are
so
8 4
there's-
drops for the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
All of
There's
which
8.
would have been unbelievably useful, other than the first rifles. That was a 1 in 8 chance of getting the first rifles, and completely bricking as Night Witches for the second time.
Wow.
I think, like I said, when he red bannered that Shaika, that just didn't feel like a Darkness play. That did not feel like a play we were used to seeing from him. I thought for sure he would go for clearing the front line and clearing the units, but instead he took a gamble and
Yeah, it was almost like of a desperation play, but he was at 20
or
HP.
greedy, maybe, because
He
It
wasn't
was
under
turn
any
2.
pressure.
Like, it was turn 3.
There's no pressure. Yeah.
I wonder if that was like, I have a chance to just take over the game now if I get the correct unit, but like it's 1 in 8 that I'll get the First Rifles. Surely I won't be that unlucky, right? But turns out, yeah. Man, I'm like not taking anything away from CCMS, but I'm gonna call this an upset.
yeah, I can feel the disappointment in the room from you guys. Listen, I'm happy my boy CCMS won,
I mean, I am
but
super
it
happy
was,
for.
they were good games.
They were awesome games. They were amazing games. All right, let's look at the bracket here and let's see what we're heading into tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to be playing the loser bracket finals first. That's going to be Darkness versus Fenrir. This is a best out of 5. They also ban 1 deck each, but this means that in order to make it to the grand finals, you need to win the other guy. You need to beat the other guy with every single one of your decks that isn't banned. I would assume Fenrir is going to ban Britain, which means that Darkness is going to have to beat him with his Soviet deck, with his Japanese Feigned Retreat deck, and what's his final deck? It's the German deck, right?
Whose decks are these?
Darkness's.
Yeah, assuming the
Brit deck gets banned.
Brit deck is banned, he's then left with his USA Britain deck. Oh no, these are the wrong person. He's left with his
It's Japanese
Feigned
value.
retreat.
Japanese feigned retreat. It's Soviet value,
Soviet
and
value and
Soviet,
a US
Germany
British franchise.
value, and then USA Britain ramp. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry
And
about that.
this will be best of 5, right?
yeah,
So he's gonna have to win with all 3
All.
decks.
yeah.
Honestly, I'd kind of like to see his US ramp deck come out. I know he's probably trying to stay away from it and play these other decks, but I do think it's something to be feared. And I think this radar alert could kind of swing some games in his way, could get some really, really big units and just absolutely devastate with.
Yeah, and let's bring the bracket up one more time so we can just finish going over tomorrow. Then the winner of that matchup is going to move on into the grand finals against CCMS 31. CCMS is already ensured that he is one of the top 2 players in this tournament, and he's going to start 1-0 up, giving him a huge advantage, both being able to see all the decks played from both of these players before they go into the match, and being able to have that 1 game advantage. I don't know about you guys, but I am absolutely shaking in my boots from excitement for tomorrow. And yeah, I think it's time for us to say goodnight here tonight. Guys, do you want to throw some sign-off words to the audience out there, to the Kards community?
Just the usual. Thank you everyone for coming and allowing us to do this, and love you guys.
Yeah. Thanks for everybody for watching. Shout outs to the production team behind the scenes that's been dealing with this whole mess that's been going on that we had today. You know, it's kind of hard to get a lot of these signals from China in here and going smoothly, but you know, we made it to the end. We stuck it out. So nice job, everybody there.
Yeah, and Blue?
Yeah, just incredibly thankful to be a part of this broadcasting team. I had a blast today. Thank you to all the players who have put in these thousands of hours combined to really get to be the highest level cards players in the world. And that just shows a level of dedication that is incredible, and determination. And I am just super happy to be a part of the World Championships here on the broadcast team, and thank you all for watching.
Yeah, well, that is going to be it for us here tonight. We had 4 insane series, and we have 2 more to come tomorrow. We go live at 1500 UTC tomorrow, same time as we did today. This time with a whole day of experience on getting these signals out of China under our belt, and we cannot wait to bring you all the action tomorrow. I want to give a special shout out to our partners that are handling the Chinese stream, that are helping us with the Chinese production, and of course our Chinese players that are playing well into the night to make sure that we get the most exciting finals possible. To everybody that tuned in, to everybody that's playing cards, it has been an absolute pleasure to be here with you today, and I can't wait to bring you the grand finals and announce the new Cards World Champion tomorrow, starting at 1500 UTC right here.